Hello from REMAX Capitol Properties.
Hello there.
I'm Stephanie Prescott.
And I'm Steve Prescott.
We're here today to just talk about kind of what's happening here in Wyoming.
Yeah,
a lot of change.
A lot of great topics here we're going to cover.
Yeah.
Not all real estate, but some of them, they all seem to tie together in some way.
Yeah,
So
kind of what's happening in Wyoming. The leaves are coming out. I was in Fort Collins yesterday. They're probably 3 weeks ahead of us. Their trees were completely in bloom and gorgeous, and I noticed ours are just getting their buds. But we're starting to have some warm weather, so that's fantastic. So it means like spring always just reminds me of rebirth and growth and momentum. And so we're feeling that even in the real estate community.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. You know what I've noticed, you were talking about green and some things budding, but I really like hearing the birds singing in the morning. I mean, they're actually going to town, so that's refreshing to hear.
The robins are back.
And then you look at the weather and not too good coming up, but we'll
maybe
get through
some
it.
snow.
Well, probably.
I love spring snow.
Yeah.
I love spring snow because you always know it's going away very quickly, and behind it is complete green.
True.
And we have our first daffodils.
Right.
I saw Mel Morse. She posted a picture of her first daffodils, and I have our first daffodils also. So that makes me very, very happy. But anyway, I know that up at my dad's ranches, they have their first calves, which is some of my very favorite time of the year. They're going to brand this week for the first time. And I can't go, but I love that time of year. And so with all the rebirth and everything that's happening, what's going on in the real estate community? I think that buyer confidence seems to be on the rise.
Yeah, buyer confidence is on the rise, and we've had a lot of activity, a lot of. I think it's always a seasonal thing when buyers come out of hibernation for the winter and they're ready to do something. I think the weather actually is kind of good for being in real estate. It's good for sellers because the buyers kind of, like I said, come out of hibernation. They're ready to get going. And so, yeah, we've noticed a very strong pickup in the market, which is nice.
That's great.
We still have, we have about 310 properties on the market in Cheyenne, which is a very good number. And stable number. And then we have about average days on market's about 47 days on market. So that's been very consistent as well. But our average sales price is up a little bit. We're about 411,000 right now for our average sales price. So things are going under contract and things are working out well. Yeah.
I think that's funny. I wanted to just go back. Again, we're live from REMAX Capitol Properties, just bringing some updates on what's happening in our community and what's happening in our state and what's happening in the real estate market. But Steve just mentioned that buyer confidence is back up and that buyers are out, and that around here, he feels like the buyers come out of hibernation. So to all my friends out there around the country and around the world, do you guys also have that kind of a real estate market? Do you have a hibernation for your buyers and your sellers? Or, some of my friends down in like the Arizona areas, or even our friend Larry Gardner in Florida, is it the same thing? Do you have the same impact from the weather to the real estate market? Do you have the same hibernation? Or even our friends in Vegas, do you have like a mass exodus during the summer months when it's so hot? Do people disappear at that time? So just curious. So any of you end up putting in the comments, we would appreciate that to know what goes on in the other real estate markets. Do you have your own real estate hibernation?
I think some areas like Florida, Scottsdale, those areas are probably alternate of us because of the time when people really move down there is to get, they probably pick up in the fall is my idea. Because people are looking to buy and get out of the cold weather coming up, so they're buying down. That's just my thought.
They buy before the snow flies,
right?
And
then they are able to move down and be out.
They go there for spring break to get out of the cold, and then they fall in love and they buy their house.
Yeah.
So it's kind of interesting. Around here, I always feel like it's really, really busy from right now until about June or July, because everybody is making a change, wants to get their kids into school.
Yeah.
At least that has felt what I see. And then it was interesting. A little bit different subject. My dad and my several generations, 5 generations of ranchers in my family here in Wyoming. And so a lot of my life's been tied around, or I pay attention to different ag stuff. And I also love sports. So it's fun, like Kim Berry and their son Tate Berry. They have all been on our son's football teams for the last several years. Well, last week, Steve and I went with my dad and some friends that work for my dad, or with all of us together, to a Purina presentation out at Little America, and that was really fun. And so we got to see a lot of the Berry family there, and it's just interesting in Cheyenne how you can be in one industry, so Central football fans, and then go over to a Purina presentation. And so that was very interesting. Got to listen to my friend Dawn Day, who I used to be on the Library Foundation board with. So many interconnected things that go on here in Wyoming. But Dawn Day's weather update I thought was really interesting.
It is really interesting. I've never looked at the, it seems like the forecasts are always kind of hit and miss, like for the week or for the day. But they're looking at this whole growing season, or at least Dawn Day was going through this whole presentation of what, it was going to be. I think it was maybe 15 minutes, something like that, a whole presentation.
15 minutes.
I can condense the 15 minutes into a couple sentences of what Dawn Day said.
Hear it. Let's
so
hear
here's
your
what I
weather
got.
prediction, Mr. Prescott.
Our moisture content this spring and growing season is average to above average.
Wow.
There you go.
We need it.
Now, so you don't have to watch the whole Don Day. Now, Don Day's a good guy, and you should watch what he has out there. But if you wanted the short version, you just got it right there. It is average to above average moisture and rain this spring
Around
season
here,
and summer.
Not Colorado.
No,
That wasn't the same?
actually the north, the northeast, couple of the northeast portions and the western slope were going to be dry. So
I'm
now,
not even gonna quote it. Just I would recommend going to Don Day's Weather Channel and look at the agricultural.
they don't have to watch it right now. You got it all.
But I was happy to hear that because it has felt very dry around here.
For sure.
And so with fires and things like that from last year. So that was really, really fun. So who would think you're going to go to a Purina presentation and get to hear a fantastic weather update like that? And then also we got to hear an economic update from a man. And he was tying it all to the agriculture, but obviously we're hearing about the economic updates from a real estate standpoint, and everybody's prediction is what will happen with the tariffs. And so it never matters what side of the aisle you're on, everyone's going to have their opinions. But I think what I enjoyed hearing was that regardless of the industry, everyone's having the same kind of conversations. What's the future look like? We've just gone through such a different time in our world history. And we're coming out of that. And then we had the highs and highs of 2020 and 2021. And then, we've had more of a recessionary feeling here. And we hear it every single day with our buyers and our sellers and our friends and our personal lives of the pressures that everyone has on their own personal economics, their business economics. And then you get these things that aren't in your control. But I do know as a business owner, anytime there's change, there's going to be some growing pains and some things that come with that. So overall, after hearing all that, it just made me look forward to what any outcomes might be anytime you have to tighten things up or whatever. The immediate is very painful, and we have talked to a lot of people that have an immediate impact. We're listening to our families here to buy homes, our agents, our family members that aren't in real estate, just the differences. And so I enjoyed that. I thought that was really great. It was a great use of our evening. And, I sent a picture to let a couple of friends know where I was, and all they wanted was the cheesecake. They didn't really want the economic update, but I won't name any names. So anyway, that's kind of how I've been doing. It's watching the things here in Wyoming, what's going on. We feel the rebirth. We feel a lot of different changes that always come in the spring, and it's so significant here and such a change. And so what else? What's going on with you have Meadowlark Air Park. Yeah,
Meadowlark Air Park's great. We've had a couple homes sell recently, which is fantastic. That's new construction, rural. And so that market has picked up nicely, to see a lot of people driving around, a lot of people checking things out. I think there's a little bit of folks still on the sidelines trying to figure out what's going to happen. But, one thing I did want to talk about is if you are thinking of buying a home, now is the absolute best time to do that. And here's why. It's not because interest rates are incredible or anything spectacular outside of the real estate world. But here's what happens. If I'm going to sell my home and I am a big planner and I have a fantastic home, I am waiting for the best time of year to put it on the market. And that is right now. So we have a lot of sellers reaching out saying, now's my time. What do I need to do? We're preparing the home. We're doing some painting. We're doing some things that are going to give it a little bit of a facelift, but it's already a fantastic home. And those homes don't come available that often. They are put on the market during the spring season to try to get the best price for it. But that also means they're the best homes that are going to hit the market for this year. Now, you're still going to have people that have to move because they have a job transfer, life changes. But the folks that are planners are planning on listing their home right now and within the next month. And that's where, if you're really in the market for something special or some specific need, the best, in my opinion, the best homes are going to be coming into the market over the next 2 months. But I would get actively looking right now. Get with your agent, give REMAX a call. We are going to be looking for those homes as they enter the market, and they're going to be special properties, and you're going to want to get your hands on them.
Yeah, that's great. So that's if you're selling and you need to sell, it's a great time. And if you need to buy, now's a great time.
It's the best time of the year.
Home prices, we don't see any expectation that home prices are going down. Interest rates, that varies. Someone will say there's going to be possibly one move, possibly up to 5 moves on increasing or decreasing the interest rate. And so I think you just have to assume that prices are going to be stable, interest rates are going to be stable.
Yeah.
And so your message is for buyers and sellers.
Right.
Just do your thing.
Yeah.
Just do your thing. I know that every home we ever bought was always at like a 6%, 7%. And
Yeah.
so that is historically very, very average. What is it right now? Do you know?
It's about 6 to 6.25, somewhere in there. When I got into real estate, it was the rate was 8.75, and there wasn't even any talk about, really, rates weren't even talked about that much. And maybe it's partially because I was so new to the business, I didn't talk a lot about interest rates. But 8.75, if you can imagine today, your payments would be, if you're at a $400,000 price, your payments are probably an extra, $700-800 a month from that interest rate change. So anyway, it's not as bad as it has been. It's not as great as it was, but it's still reasonable, and things are still selling here, at least in our market here.
Yeah, and if you're a buyer, you would love to go back to those prices. If you're a seller, you wouldn't want to go back to the prices. But anyway, I always appreciate hearing that. And I think that you've been talking to different people who've had rentals as part of their strategy in their wealth building, in their portfolios, and they're starting to liquidate some of those. And so if you are someone who's considering liquidating some of your rentals, what would you say?
Yeah, and maybe you're not considering it. And that may be part of the, I don't know, necessarily a problem, but you maybe want to get an update to see where some of these property values are standing right now. You may be pleasantly surprised. If you're anything like I am, sometimes, we have rental properties and they run pretty well. They run good. I mean, I don't have a lot to do on them, but I also don't really check the updates that much. And we maybe update them, update the values maybe once or every 1 year or 2 years, something like that. But if you haven't really checked that out and it's just been humming along and you've had a rental for the last 5 to 10 years, you maybe want to check to see what that value is, because you may want to liquidate it. You may want to use it for some leverage or collateral on something else. So I would check, reach out to your agent and say, hey, what's my value on these things? It's good for you to know, but if you've just kind of been letting it operate and run its course, you should probably get an update on that value, because they're surprising. Some of them are surprising.
Well, and we each get a tax assessment notice every year, so we get to see something like that, but it's still different.
Yeah, and you really can't. I mean, they're good, but they're not great on valuation, and so they're usually off a little bit. So.
And then you can do the like AI type home values online and things, but there's a difference between someone coming in and knowing what else is on the market, and like the smells, the feels, the updates, so many different things are taken into consideration.
Well, and AI doesn't know that we're a non-disclosure state for sales prices too. So these platforms that are giving you some valuations are trying to figure out data they can use to give a good value, but we don't disclose our sales prices. So they're putting in some sort of matrix in their system and their algorithm to come up with a price. So it's really, you can't rely on those. I wouldn't rely on the county assessor. Don't tell them that, but I wouldn't rely on that necessarily to know what the market value is. And I really certainly wouldn't rely on some of the market. They're good. They maybe give you a broad range, but you really need to fine tune it to know what they're selling for.
Yeah, I know that some agents have come to me with some of the values, and they'll be off by 100,000. So that's a huge difference.
That's pretty big.
But it's because of the fact that Wyoming is a non-disclosure state, meaning they don't share what things sell for.
Right.
So the systems, the AI systems in those programs will just try to take the listing price, right, and compare it in that way. But so owning is still the best long-term strategy. However, if that's been your strategy for a long time and you're leaning toward different things, like our parents' age, they're looking more at liquidating and getting rid of some of those tasks that they've had. So definitely reach out. I have a lot of experience here in REMAX Capitol Properties with real estate investing and rentals, and we always have agents that'll say, I don't know if I told my client the right thing, but I told them they should just hang on to their house. And so we're not in it for just a quick commission or a sale. We're in it for what's best for you and to be part of your wealth building team, your financial strategy. So let us know how we can help you on that. But I just wanted to talk about another article that I saw. I saw an article yesterday from CNBC, and it was talking about the 10 least expensive kind of cities to live in, and Cheyenne was not one of them.
No.
But they only did the top 10, and they're mostly in the south, almost southeast. But it talked about the average salary to really have a kind of that middle class lifestyle needed to be almost $90,000. And so I know that in Wyoming, you'd probably need to have a lot of times 2 incomes for that. And so all it made me really think about is how, as long-term followers of Dave Ramsey's financial planning steps, his baby steps, you can get a lot of his books, Total Money Makeover. You can do his Financial Peace University. There are all kinds of videos out now about that. And as followers of Dave Ramsey, I think that people just need to have a financial plan. There's so much pressure on having everything right now, today, and it's so expensive. One example, our oldest son's a college athlete, and he needed new football cleats and track, like running shoes. And those shoes are absurd, the price of them. And so if you find yourself in like a sense of emergency, what do you do? And so that planning, those steps are really important. If I can ever be of assistance helping you on any of that, just please reach out. But have a plan. Whether you're young, whatever young is to any of us and whatever older is to any of us, having a plan, owning property has always been part of a long-term wealth building strategy. So we're here to help you make whatever plans you want to do happen, and highly encourage starting now. I keep having my kids tell me how important it is, like, to have credit cards and things like that. And so I don't always have all the right answers, but at least in our world of technology today, you can find a short video to either support your concept of it and or support their concept of it. But it's important to learn together, and I think that that's an important thing for families. I don't really see that there's a lot of financial planning education for young people. And, I learned how to write checks and envelopes, and I still do, and put stamps on them and mail them and stuff. And that's just not the way of the world for our kids today. And I know when I used to teach Dave Ramsey classes, that handing a debit card or a credit card, there is no emotional connection to it versus handing cash. And so maybe, make sure your kids have some cash to work with, or any of us, if we need to get new parameters set around our budgets, get some cash and help yourself do some of that. But anyway, if $90,000 is kind of an household income you need to live to provide some of these things, meet the new cost of groceries and meet the new cost of education, college education, cost of track shoes, cost of football cleats, cost of high jumper cleats, or whatever it may be that you have to help to cover, just some planning is going to go a long way. So those are some of the tips that we have here today. So
yeah, I don't have much else, really.
Thank you very much for tuning in. We appreciate it. We love to share what our agents are experiencing, and we gather all the information from agents, and different agents love to do the lives each week, but we're here each week to support you in your real estate goals, We believe Cheyenne's a great place to live, work, and raise a family. So let us know how we can support you, how we can add value to your real estate journey, how we can add value to you saving for a home or your kids saving for a home. So we're here when you need us. Thank you for tuning in live. We'll see you next Tuesday.
Take care.
Bye.